So this is the palette, and you can pause this video to kind of take the colors down. There's actually one color, I can't remember what it is, between the Cad Red Light and Scarlet, but this is colors that I like to have out. You don't have to have all of these colors, but you definitely need some variety to give you for these early paintings, these in this learning stage. If you have a variety of colors so that you can choose one color for each part of the painting, or terminology that we use is color notes, it is helpful because we don't want to use white or black to modify our colors. We want it to be, I mean, within reason. Some of the dark colors we will need some dark, some white added in, but black is a no-no. We don't use black at all. And so, as many choices that you can avail yourself in the rainbow of colors, the better. And these are colors that I like to have out. The next clip is going to show you an initial beginning. This is where we just put color spots all over the whole painting to make sure we've got the right value and the right hue. I just had technical difficulties. I'm a good painter, but not so much good at the videoing and all of that. So I'm sorry about that part, but I didn't want to waste what I had done up to a certain point. So I'm going to proceed from here. And so you see the color spots on the different parts, and we are going to do from all the light areas, starting with the lightest, which is the white vase. We move to the yellow, top of the yellow block. We got to do the top of the blue block, and then the table and the background. So we do all of those with one solid color. We are strictly going for the masses. And this is the thing I love about a white vase, is you see the reflection in there. Unfortunately, it's the best I could do for a photograph on the actual setup, but you can see how there's reflection in that white vase, and it can appear like there's different colors when you really want to treat it as one solid color, especially for your starting notes. So at this point in time, I've made a little progress getting some lights and darks, and I'm filling in as much as I can, and we are using the palette knife, and the reason being is that the palette knife makes it a lot easier to not blend or mix your colors on the canvas too much. When you're just beginning, in particular, the palette knife helps in layering color on top of color, so it's a minimal amount of blending, and at first it's going to feel really awkward and clumsy, but once you get used to it, you're going to find that this little tool leads you to a lot of other creative places and can be a lot of fun. I love the palette knife now, but believe me, in the very beginning it felt weird because I had only used a brush in my former painting life. So the thing that you're trying to do here is you want to get a starting color note that is going to depict the time of day. And as you can see from the photo, we've got bright sunshine. I started this painting about 9 in the morning, and usually you have about an hour and a half, 2 hours max of the same light. So at some point in time, you're going to get quicker, but what's really important is getting your start notes, your starting colors accurate, and we are looking for value changes or differences. We're looking for color differences, and in this exercise we only use one color for each area or each object. So for example, on the blue block, for the parts that are in shadow, both sides and top that's in shadow, we use one color note, which was ultramarine blue. Then same thing for the lit areas of the blue block. For a starting note to depict light, we're using permanent rose with white in it. And for a starting note on the white vase, we used a cad yellow light with some white. And, in certain cases, white is appropriate and necessary, particularly when you get into your really dark colors, but we want to be careful with white because white will cool down and desaturate your colors. So we really want as straight from the tube as possible as we can get, and still meet the value properties of the particular area. The color I'm painting in this particular moment is a it was the cobalt violet, and I did add a little bit of white in that, I believe, but not much, because we are very careful to make sure the value is, we show that strong contrast between the light and the dark areas. Generally speaking, we are painting cooler colors in the shadow areas, but everything is relative. So in the case of this cobalt violet, for example, in the shadow areas, that is like a warmer cool. Obviously, with the blue block, we go with a much cooler ultramarine blue color. But on the white vase in the cool area, the blue that we use for a starting note to depict that vase shadow area is a manganese blue. So that's a warmer type blue, and it, you can see that the value and the warmth factor, there's a big difference there. It's going to definitely feel kind of strange painting these kind of what seems like crazy colors. In fact, I remember years ago when I was learning and we were painting outdoors, and some bikers went by and they were like, I don't know what they're looking at, because our starting notes were pretty crazy looking. But these are just foundation colors. These are colors that are going to lead into what's called local colors, or colors that we have attachment names to. For example, the blue sky, the green grass, those are local colors, or colors that we have identified as being a certain name. But we are going to start out, because we're depicting a certain time of day, type of light property, using these brighter colors. So in the background for the grass, a starting note, because it's definitely sunlit, and it really depends on, everything is related to everything else. So on another painting doing grass, you might start out with a yellow very similar to the top of that yellow block for the grass color. But then as you continue to paint, and as this video progresses, you're going to see how I start adding other colors in. And I started to say about the white vase, it's fun and was very educational for me doing a white vase, because within that blue shadow note, you have to be very careful not to separate the colors that you see within that shadow note. If you squint your eyes, that is really kind of a major testing ground, you might say, to what the values really are. When you squint and you look at that vase, and it happens better in real life, but you're going to see that it all becomes one value, one level or degree of darkness or lightness, however you want to look at it. So by adding color of the same value within that blue part of the vase to start modifying the colors that are reflecting onto it, it actually will start to look just like it does on that reflected part of the vase, like a lighter area. I'm just going to fast forward. Before I fast forward, I just want to say, when you're very first starting to put your colors down and fill in your space, it's a good idea to try to leave a little space between the sections. And when I should probably back up even farther, when I started this, I used a yellow ochre. I always just use yellow ochre from the tube, but it probably would be even better to add a little white to it so it's not too strong. And that's a good color where, it's not going to mess up or blend in too much with any of your other colors when you do finally start to obliterate it. But starting out, all your color shapes, which include your shadow shapes, you should keep separate from each other. It just makes it a little easier. Keep a little space between, while you're defining your first starting notes. And then as you start to bring the painting, on its way to a finish, then you can start closing in those gaps. But the beauty of using a palette knife is you can scrape off a mistake if you do happen to catch another color, and you want to use your rag or paper towel to clean your palette knife off regularly. But this is the beginning concepts of understanding painting with color and painting the color of light. And we use simple objects like blocks because we don't want to get bogged down with depicting a thing. It's really important to focus on your color and your values, and comparing those differences. So some of the things you'll be looking out for is temperature of your color, the value of your color, and the hue of your color. Those are three major components. So I am going to progress this painting a little bit farther along as I start to fill this in a little more. The background, I did a little experimenting. I was trying a few different things because I was trying to make sure I got that, value difference between the table and the grass, and the, still the warmth of the sun shining on the grass. So I started out with like an orange. I went to finally I put in there like a red deep with a little white. But when you add white to red deep, it really cools it down, and it's a beautiful color for certain purposes, but not for what I was trying to do here. So then I tried the scarlet red, which was a perfect value and temperature to differentiate from the table and the grass, but give that in sunlight. At this point now, I'm starting to work my way towards the local color or the green of the grass. These are considered second notes, and depending on what you're painting, you can get into third notes. All of this will be differentiated and explained, to an even greater detail in the course. But how to use your palette knife and how to choose colors to put on top of other colors to get you to the desired results of what's in front of you will all be laid out and discussed in detail. But this gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. And just a little tip with the knife. For the longest time, I used I think it's a 2D, T'd 2D. I'm not sure what this one is because my handle's covered in paint, but I like the longer, thinner. That's something that you will experiment with, but you can see I'm using the tip of the blade. So, just getting a chunk of paint on your knife, laying that chunk in an area, and then using your tip to drag the color around gives you control. I've seen some really detailed still lifes that you would be shocked to know that it was done primarily with a palette knife. So, as your skill level grows and your comfort grows with using the palette knife, you're just going to have a blast playing with it. But it will feel funny at first, without a doubt. So the light started to change, but I'm going to fast forward so you can kind of see the progression. I slowly add other colors to start modifying, showing the difference in the planes, which is, like on the yellow block, you see there's a lit area, but it's not as light as the top. In the starting stage, as I mentioned in the webinar, there's definitely a formula to this in the beginning, but the name of the game is to actually train your eye to see. So at the end of it all, you then learn to choose colors that you feel are going to take you where you want to go. But it helped me having this formula to kind of see better the color that's out there in nature and how to depict it. And then eventually bring in the kind of color and light that you want to see in your painting. I'm in my backyard, as you can see. The wind blew my phone, I think, or I hit it. I'm not sure which is what I filmed this on, but you get the idea. And this is not complete at this point, but this gives you a beginning idea of what you will learn and and how you'll start immediately if infusing color into your work.